Tonight, our focus is on the Ayaso West gone by elections 2 years on, which, of course, as you know, was indeed a situation that remains a bloat on our country's democracy. Tonight, our focus as we discuss this big critical issue, as we have a conversation with the Honorable Member of Parliament for Ningo Pram constituency, Honorable Sam George, who was, of course, a center of attraction in that particular incident. And later, our focus continues to be on the COVID-19 situation here in Ghana. We'll also give you an idea of how the situation is looking in Kenya. Welcome. This is Xyz Tonight. My name is Prince Minka. Remember to join us on this program as you connect with us on our various social networking platforms. On Facebook is TVXYZ, and of course on Twitter you can as well watch us on YouTube. Make sure to hit the subscribe button as you watch us on YouTube. And the WhatsApp line will also be displayed on your screen as we move on with our conversation. Now, here in Ghana, in terms of the COVID-19 situation, it's quite alarming as we're beginning to hear that the Akosombo International School, for instance, has recorded some number of cases. As of this evening, 79 students have been tested positive. And of course, we're still waiting for 250 test results in that particular school. Now, in the Ashanti Regional Capital, for instance, KSTS has recorded some cases. But here's how it is looking in terms of the global picture. Now, in terms of the number of cases so far, we're looking at 106,819,652. Now, in terms of the number of people that have died worldwide as far as COVID-19 is concerned, we're looking at 2,330,225. And then in terms of the recoveries, it's 78,564,688. We can move on to the next slide and still give you a global perspective in terms of the new cases of COVID that's been recorded so far. So as of the 6th of February 2021, in terms of the new cases, we're looking at 460,906. Then on the average, we're looking at 482,147. So that's how exactly it is looking in terms of COVID-19, the global picture. So let's also take a look at the number of cases recorded in terms of the deaths. Now, as of the 6th of February 2021, we had 15,400 cases in terms of the deaths that's been recorded. And on the average, we're looking at 13,327. So the global picture is not looking too good at all. And when we get to Ghana, you get to appreciate exactly why there's been increasing conversation around what needs to be done in this particular moment to curtail the spread of COVID-19 in the country. And of course, there's been conversation about some of the mechanisms that can be put in place to best protect the citizenry. Now, here in the country, total number of confirmed cases of COVID-19, 71,533. That's how it's looking in the country as at the 4th of February 2021. Now, I've already been mentioning this to you, that across the length and breadth of the country, there's no region that has not recorded any case of COVID-19. In fact, the entire 16 regions of Ghana have recorded cases of COVID-19. Now, in terms of the new cases, Ghana is standing at 765. So we're recording over 700 cases on daily basis. And in terms of the confirmed cases, as we've indicated, 71,533. In terms of the deaths, over 464 cases, 464 deaths so far. In terms of recoveries, 64,658. Let's quickly move on to the next slide. We'll be taking you to Kenya, and we'll get to appreciate exactly what the government of Kenya is doing to curtail the spread of COVID-19. Now, let's look at the steep in terms of the active cases, how it rises and then it falls. Now, one thing that you need to take a critical look is where we've reached. Now, in terms of the curve, it's plateaued up to this point. And this is where the expectation is that it would fall so that we'll begin to see a decreased number of cases. Now, here we are. It has remained so. It hasn't fallen flat. It's not been a situation since the last time I showed you this graph. We've been remaining at this particular point. We have been at this particular point where it has plateaued. It's reached its peak. So until we begin to see a dip in terms of the situation here, as in the plateau, we're not going to see a decrease in the cases that's been recorded so far. So it is not looking too good for our dear country, Ghana. Schools have reopened. Many schools are recording cases of COVID-19. Just as I've indicated to you, at the Akosombo International School earlier today, 79 cases were recorded, 250 tests. Students and, of course, parents are still waiting on exactly how it will turn out to be. At KSTS, there are some recorded cases of COVID-19. But let's go to Kenya and give you an idea of how it is looking. But before then, I would want you to listen to Dr. Omane Boamah. The last time he spoke to us with regards to some of the mechanisms that's been adopted. Already, Ghana Medical Association has waded into this whole issue that's been put in sharp focus about the need to use hydrogen peroxide. Last time Dr. Omane Boamah was here, this is what he had to say. Listen. Tonight here on TV XYZ as well as Xyz TV, we are having a conversation with Dr. Edward Omane Boamah, Minister for Communications, former Minister for Communications, and also a medical doctor. Now, just before the break, I prompted you that we'd want to look at the new strain of COVID-19. Some say it's more like a story of the twin cities or two cities. What is it, this new strain from South Africa and UK?
Okay. Just as I try to bring the numbers home, I always love to break down medical information, because that's the only way that it becomes beneficial to the people who are non-medics. Like, what does it mean to say that 424 people have died of COVID? Okay. And I said it means that if you take every 75,000 Ghanaians, it means one person has died of COVID. What does it mean to say that over 1,500 people caught COVID in 2 days prior to the president's address on Sunday? It means that National Theatre filled to capacity with human beings. In the same way, your question and another one that came through about hydrogen peroxide.
Okay, so of course he was about explaining exactly what entailed in hydrogen peroxide, stating his position on that matter. As I mentioned to you, Ghana Medical Association has waded into this whole conversation about hydrogen peroxide, stated its position on the matter. Food and Drugs Authority has only been warning the Ghanaian public to be wary of some of the fake hydrogen peroxide on our market. But as you may be aware, the United States of America Embassy here in Ghana has postponed its scheduled visa appointment, and it's all because of COVID-19. But let's look at some other African country, particularly Kenya, and that's where we want to speak to Kwalison Laurie. He's a Kenyan journalist. And Kwalison, if you can hear me via Zoom, just want you to give us a fair idea of the current situation there in Kenya.
Hi, Prince. Good hearing from you today. Nairobi is fine. It's warm, and the numbers in terms of COVID-19 infections are going down, say compared to about 2-3 months ago, where the numbers were quite high. But now the numbers are going down, and the curve is beginning to flatten. So that's some good news from Nairobi, although like we always say, since COVID-19 is relatively new, we cannot know how it behaves, and therefore we cannot quickly say that there has been a victory. So all hands, I believe, are still on deck in this context.
Some mechanisms with regards to what's been put in place there in Kenya, Collison. Give us a fair idea of how it is looking, especially in terms of the flights that comes in and out of Kenya.
You know, Prince, it's not just about focusing on incoming and outgoing international travelers. It's more than that. It's also essential to look at the domestic front. To this effect, the government of Kenya has put in measures such as the nighttime curfew, which limits movement of people to ensure that the spread of COVID-19 is contained. Secondly, despite the fact that schools opened on the 4th of January, they opened under strict COVID-19 regulations, and tests still continue as they have in the past. Again, vehicles, public service transport is operating at 60% capacity. Face masks or face coverings remain the norm and are compulsory in the country. That, in effect, shows you that at the international level, international traveler level, and at the domestic level, there are attempts by the government to curb the spread of COVID-19. Also, the government has put in place a system, having ordered for 4.1 million doses of the vaccine against COVID-19. This 4.1 million doses will be provided to frontline workers and the vulnerable as early as towards the end of this month. This will then ensure that if there is a delay or a complete way of stopping the variants from Brazil, South Africa, and England, or any other place from entering the country, then the vaccine and the vaccination process will then take care of everything else. That way, perhaps, much can be achieved. But like I said, at a certain point, these are moving parts. We all do not know what exactly COVID-19 is going to behave. So all these things that are being done, but of course, there is always that question that, is it really going to work? So it's...
But one thing is quite clear, Collins, and that, like here in Ghana, for instance, we're still trying to wrap our heads around the new variants in terms of the Brazilian, the South African, of course, the UK variants of COVID-19. How's it looking over there in Kenya?
Prince, the government of Kenya is fully cognizant of the changing dynamics around the COVID-19 pandemic. In light of this, the government is very much aware that the new variants from South Africa, from Brazil, from the UK pose a threat to the Kenyan nation and its citizens. In light of this, the government has come up with a strategy that is two-pronged. One, to ensure that the international traveler route is strengthened, meaning all travelers to Kenya from the 11th of January 2021 will have to produce a digitally verifiable certificate under what is referred to as the Trusted Traveler Initiative or the Global Haven Partnership. This, in my opinion, is in no doubt a response to unscrupulous individuals who would forge COVID-19 certificates in order to cut back on costs so that then they can fly in, and in the process they are in a position to bring in infections to the country. And with these variants that are emerging, that would be a disaster. So it is essential, therefore, that the government makes sure that the tracking of travelers leaving the country and coming into the country is certified and can be shared globally within a moment's notice. Now, that is the first area that the government has worked on.
Absolutely. I want to thank you very much, Collins and Laurie. He is an international journalist based in East Africa, but of course, that's a lot of his work in Kenya, bringing us an update on the COVID-19 situation there in Kenya. And as you may be aware, of course, as he put it, the government there is not sleeping on its job, as it is putting in place a number of mechanisms aimed at dealing with the situation, in spite of the fact that Kenya has not recorded high number of COVID-19 cases as we are seeing now in the Republic of Ghana. We're taking a break. When we return, of course, like I mentioned to you shortly, our focus will be on the Ayaso West Wagon by-election violence and how that remains a bloat on our democracy. Going forward, any lesson at all, stay with us.
We are one man short. Should we invite him?
Yes.
It be old cargo. Can I join you guys?
Yeah.
Always drink fresh, natural mix, mineral water.
You still got it.
Always keep hydrated naturally. That's my secret.
Manufactured with the primary aim of preserving nature's finest minerals necessary for a healthy mind and body. X Natural Mineral Water. Simply natural.
Thank you very much for staying with us here on XYZ Tonight, here on TV XYZ with me, Prince Minka. Remember to join us with your messages wherever you are on Facebook and, of course, on Twitter and on YouTube, wherever you are. Join the conversation on WhatsApp as well, as we've displayed on the screen, our WhatsApp line. Let's get to hear you. Exactly what's your position on the various mechanisms government has put in place in order to curb the spread of COVID-19? What's the feeling like as you look at the COVID-19 situation here in Ghana? And of course, do your own comparative analysis to the situation as pertains to other African countries and in fact the world as well. But still on COVID-19, even before we get into our discussion segment, and remember, anytime we get into the conversation or the discussion here on XYZ Tonight, it's probably brought to you by Health Alert Clinic. And I'll tell you more about Health Alert Clinic shortly. But before then, let's take a listen to Dr. Omane Boamah, former communications minister and, of course, a medical doctor. As I mentioned to you, the last time he was here, he stated his position on hydrogen peroxide. Let's bring that interview back, and then we'll also listen to Professor Aite. Stay with us. Tonight here on TV XYZ as well as Xyz TV, we are having a conversation with Dr. Edward Omane Boamah, Minister for Communications, former Minister for Communications, and also a medical doctor. Now, just before the break, I prompted you that we'd want to look at the new strain of COVID-19. Some say it's more like a story of the twin cities or two cities. What is it, this new strain from South Africa and UK?
Okay. Just as I try to bring the numbers home, I always love to break down medical information, because that's the only way that it becomes beneficial to the people who are non-medics. Like, what does it mean to say that 424 people have died of COVID? Okay. And I said it means that if you take every 75,000 Ghanaians, it means one person has died of COVID. What does it mean to say that over 1,500 people caught COVID in 2 days prior to the president's address on Sunday? It means that National Theatre filled to capacity with human beings. In the same way, your question and another one that
came through
about hydrogen peroxide.
Exactly.
I'm going to try and combine them without turning this into a molecular biology class. I'm sure many people have seen the nature of the virus, that it is kind of spherical stuff with some spikes on it. Okay, spikes on it. How does it get into our bodies? When you pick it from a surface, or someone sneezes and you are not protected and the person too is not protected, the virus gets into our nostrils or any surface that is very thin. So even if it lands on your eyes, some believe that it can make its way, but that is one of the most rare cases. Some have even theorized that, so you those who are wearing glasses are protected in terms of that, but that fine print, let's throw the fine prints away.
Right.
What is the benefit of this strain thing that we are talking about? What it means is that the interventions that we are putting in place, we know that, Kofi Omaneboama, he is in this nature. This is the spike. And the spike, maybe it is red, yellow, and blue. So when it is entering the cell, that is your body, it enters through this gate. And then when it gets in, it behaves in a particular way. So when drugs are being manufactured or vaccines are being prepared to deal with them, you manufacture the vaccine such that the vaccine is going to provide soldiers, what we call antibodies, soldiers to fight the virus. How is it going to fight them? In one way, it's going to fight it at a level where your body will not recognize the red, yellow, and blue part of the virus, so that the virus can enter your system. Okay, so let's say a vaccine has been developed like that. Only for some mutation. What is mutation? Mutation is like a change in something, an undesirable change in something. So the red, yellow, and blue, and then the blue becomes green. So we now have red, yellow, green. That vaccine may not be able to pick the green part. And so what that means is that now the virus comes.
So clearly, that's exactly what it means. And that's Dr. Omaneboama, a medical practitioner, and of course, a former communications minister, speaking to us the last time here on XYZ Tonight. Let's take a listen now to Professor Aite, who is one of the proponents of the use of hydrogen peroxide as one of the safety mechanisms that we can adopt in dealing with COVID-19. Listen.
Hydrogen peroxide, as we know, is, in fact, some people use it for bleach, but it's also an effective disinfectant.
Okay, so we've got a display that will come much later. I don't know but Prof, you go ahead.
Yes. Okay. So what happens is that the hydrogen peroxide is already known as an oral hygiene fluid. It is known to kill bacteria. It is known to kill fungi. Others have now shown that hydrogen peroxide also inactivates viruses, and in fact, specifically coronaviruses, as well as.
The point from that conversation was that hydrogen peroxide simply inactivates viruses, and that's the more reason for him it has become essential to not just use it as a mouthwash, but also tend to use it in order to deal with the curb of the spread of COVID-19, in as much as we go about following the other safety protocols, which at this point many are calling on government to, if you will, evaluate what the situation is like as at this particular moment. As I've already reported to you that at Akosombo International, for instance, 79 students have been tested. In terms of having tested, of course, it's been found out that they have COVID-19. And of course, 250 more test results are expected in that particular school. Schools have reopened. Some of the safety protocols that needs to be put in place, many say having to relax, and of course you cannot trust students, especially those at the basic level, to go about ensuring that they are able to follow through with the safety protocols. And of course, let's come talk about those in the kindergarten as well. So that conversation is ongoing. And we also know that the United States of America Embassy here in Ghana have postponed its scheduled visa appointment over COVID-19. So it's really a huge deal in the country at this moment. So as we continue to monitor the situation, we'll get to bringing you various angles with regards to the COVID-19 situation. Now, we're still waiting for Honorable Sam George, the Member of Parliament for Ningo Pram, to join us in the studio. But just want to remind you that our discussion segment here on XYZ Tonight is proudly brought to you by Health Alert Clinic. Now, Health Alert Clinic is a herbal clinic that provides its services using herbal and organic products, as we've displayed there on your screen. And as you know, coronavirus is on the rise. It is advisable to visit Health Alert Clinic for a thorough checkup, especially people with underlying health conditions such as chronic diabetes, chronic hypertension, stroke, numbness, waist down muscles pain, and of course that is where they tend to use the machine in order to treat you. Also prostate issues, all you got to do is to go to Health Alert Clinic. Let me give you a fair idea of where they are located. They are right here in the national capital, Accra. Locate them at the Medina Post Office, just behind the First Atlantic Bank here in Accra. Call Health Alert Clinic on the numbers displayed on your screen, 0242 518893 and also 0242 518865. Health Alert Clinic is proud to be associated with the discussion segment here on XYZ Tonight. Stay with us. We'll be back shortly.
Peace of mind is very essential in your journey to success. For Akwesi Papa, peace of mind means having a proper covering over his family. Literally. For Araba, aka Injection Mama, it's about having the funds to complete her advanced nursing course. And as for Corporal Odami, it's as simple as reporting on time for his shifts. Sometimes all you need is a simple push. At Needs Microfinance, we have tailor-made loan packages for salaried workers under the Controller General's Department. With the low interest rate and quick wahala-free process, you are guaranteed of a timely solution to get back that peace of mind, literally in 30 minutes. Needs Microfinance. Growing with you.
Welcome to Auto Check Vehicle Diagnostic and Licensing Center.
I hear my car can be checked here without going to so many hour crash.
Sure. Emission, check.
Alignment, check.
Brakes, check. Visit AutoChecks at Koforidua Aquadrum Road for the roadworthiness of your vehicle, from saloon cars to heavy-duty industrial vehicles. Madam, your car is now ready for the road.
Thank you so much. Auto checks. Check.
AutoChecks, your safety, our priority.
Auto check.
This is XYZ Tonight here on your TV XYZ across the length and breadth of the globe, on Facebook, on TV XYZ, and also Xyz TV. Let's do this. You know what? We're going to be looking at the Ayaso West Wuogon by-election violence. And as you would agree with me, it remains a bloat in terms of the country's democracy. Now, those obviously may not be the exact words that you would want to use to describe a growing democracy like Ghana. But unfortunately, that was the situation on that very day where masked men, well-built masked men, those in khaki uniforms, of course, supposedly came to the what was supposed to be a peaceful conduct of a by-elections in the Ayaso West were gone, well-armed, and of course in police vehicles. And as you would get to know later, in terms of the events that unfolded, they unleashed mayhems to innocent citizens. Now, this eventually led to the call by many that there was a need to investigate the matter, as accusing fingers were pointed at a number of people, including the Ghana Police Service and, of course, the National Security. The President of the Republic, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, constituted the Ayaso West Wogon Commission of Inquiry, chaired by Justice Emil Short, former boss of the Commission of Human Rights and Administrative Justice. Now, they sat through various proceedings at the Osu Castle, where a number of witnesses were brought to the commission to attest and give vivid account of some of the events that unfolded as far as the Ayaso West Wogon violence is concerned. The commission, after its work, gave out some recommendations, and of course it was submitted to the President of the Republic, who later goes on to issue a white paper. Now, let's just take you through some of the recommendations, as this would have been our focus with Honorable Sam George, who became a central figure in this drama that unfolded at the Ayaso West Wogon violence. Of course, he was slapped by one Suleimana, who later was known to be a national security operative. Now, the commission sat, and of course, those accounts were given. Now, in terms of the structure of the recommendation, the commission recommended that the president should review and restructure the Ministry of National Security Establishment with a view to ensuring clarity of responsibilities and roles, as well as lines of reporting. Now, the commission also recommended the establishment of a standing command and a control center tasked inter-ally with the role of assessing and processing intelligence for rapid deployment. Now, this center will incorporate key officers of allied internal security agencies, including the police, the military, national security, and the fire service, as well as customs. Now, if Honorable Sam George had been here, those would have been some of the questions I would have put to him, as recently he was heard on the floor of Parliament recounting the events and, of course, calling on government to, as a matter of urgency, compensate some of the victims of the Ayaso West Wogon violence. Now, if you should join us in the studio, we'll be getting into this. But in terms of some of the operations that the commission was looking forward to, it recommended that, as a matter of urgency, the police and national security establishment must develop protocols for the assessment of rating of intelligence received and subsequent deployment of missions, if any. Now, the commission also recommended that no masked or hooded men, as you see there in your shot, masked and hooded men should be used for civilian policing, especially in electoral policing or execution of intelligence contingent on or connected with any ongoing elections in Ghana. Did that happen? Well, of course, we saw the various events that unfolded in the 2020 general elections. Now, the commission also recommended that SWAT teams and police officers deployed to maintain peace and order on electoral grounds must have rigorous training in crowd control, arrest and perimeter security for both ongoing electoral exercise for any allied security issues that may emerge in an auxiliary fashion, as we saw there in Ayaso West Wogon. And that's what you see there in your shot. The commission also recommended that standard rules and procedures for issuance of weapons and ammunition to police officers and operatives of the national security who are sent on missions and accompanying rules of accountability for these weapons and ammunitions should be enforced. So those issues also came up in terms of the recommendation of the Emil Short Commission. Now, let me just bring in what DSP Azugu told the Commission of Inquiry when he took his turn to give account on what unfolded as far as the Ayaso West Wogon violence is concerned. Let's take a listen to DSP Azugu in that account. Watch this.
To arrest 9 of them, for them to help investigators to establish why that action. And some of them surrendered and they were taken to the vehicles. But some on their way decided to, run away, decided to put up resistance to their arrest. So they managed to, shut off the security men, they tried to run, and the security men pounced on them. And that one, I agree that one, my boys overreacted when they were re-arresting them. Then they put them, I made sure that they were arrested and we put them in the vehicles. So, there I placed a call to my director that this is what has just happened. We were met with this challenge. And so far we have arrested 9 suspects. Then he's told me to call Director General Operations Ghana Police Service. Then I called him. Then he directed me to send the arrested suspects to the East Legon Police Station.
And so those were the accounts of DSP Azugu, who will go down in history, of course, to be remembered as far as that incident at Ayaso West Wogon is concerned. Now, our focus tonight is on whether or not we've learned any lessons. We just had an election, 2020 elections. Of course, being disputed, though, in court, but there were some incidences. Adam Buna is a security analyst. He joins us on the line. Adam Buna, thank you very much for joining us on XYZ tonight. We're looking back at the Ayaso West Wogon by-election violence. It's been 2 years on. From where you said, any lessons learned at all? Hello, Mr. Buddha. Mr. Buddha, if you can hear me. Well, it looks like we've lost Adam Buna on the line. We just would want to raise him back on the line. Of course, discuss with him whether we've learned any lessons as far as the Ayaso West Wogon violence is concerned. And remember, like I mentioned in the intro, it remains a bloat on our democracy. Of course, we do remember what happened during the 2020 general election. But in terms of the general architecture of the state security, this is what the Emil Short Commission had to say about what needs to be done as a matter of urgency. In fact, I've got a report right here with me. It indicated that the evidence given before the commission presents a confused and unsettling picture relative to the structure and systems put in place for the provision of a state national security for Ghana. In the main, the top officers whose schedules border on national security and who testified before the commission appeared at best bed and of course on shore. But let's go on the line and speak to Mr. Adam Buna, a security analyst. Mr. Adam Buna, thank you very much for your time. Please give us a fair idea of from where you sit, whether or not you think that we've learned any lessons from the Ayaso West Wogon by-election violence. It's been 2 years on. Any lessons learned at all, sir?
Yeah, good evening and good evening to your viewers and if you and your panelists, if you have panelists here. I must say that we really haven't learned any lesson. The situation has really gotten worse, and so lessons learned probably not that I'm aware of. We haven't really learned lessons. So as far as I am concerned, the situation seems to be rather getting getting out of hand, if it hasn't gotten out of hand already. And so, with regards to what culminated into Arawasu West Wagon and the despicable nature in which state security officers, conducted themselves, we saw largely, some play out of the same situation before and during, and probably after the elections. You saw a military instructor, this is somebody I know very well, actually beaten by state security, some national security officers. They beat him up. And you know what the situation that created amongst the boys in the various barracks. It's not something that anyone would want to put across, because then if anyone would have to put it vividly, it would create a bit of panic in the country. Because you beat an instructor, if you know who an instructor within any of the security services is, literally he takes charge of their physical training, sees to their well-being with regards to making sure they are well conditioned. So most of these boys are usually very loyal to such persons. So they are very beaten, and the president spoke about it, and we were told he's been interdicted, and we haven't heard anything. Interdiction, is too vague. No punishment was assigned, nothing, and you just imagine Techiman. So the list is unending. So as far as I'm concerned, to answer directly, no, we haven't learned anything.
But what would it take to revisit the situation as we are doing on TV now, and of course trigger the needed response that will get us to a situation where we actually see the results that we're all looking forward to? For instance, punishment as being recommended in the Emil Shot Commission. Of course, some heads were supposed to roll. That hasn't happened. What do we need to do? What would it take for that to happen?
The conversation, let's continue to have these type of conversations. Let's speak to the powers that be. Let's speak directly to them. Let them know that, you see, Ghana belongs to all of us. I have a share, you have a share, my children, your children, and all of us. Even children, those unborn, have shares in this country, just like the rest of us who are taking care of this Ghana for those unborn. So let's continue to have this type of conversation in a more civil manner. I would want to say the Commission's report remains there. Somebody like Brian Achampon was indicted. In a way, he was supposed to go to court to set aside whatever I think I'm not a lawyer, but I'm supposed to have gone to court within a certain number of days. If he didn't do that within a certain number of days, then he cannot do it again. So any other leader who one day takes over the reins of this country and intends to visit it, all these people are likely to be punished. And so I am thwarted by the fact that the report, these things, the sittings were televised, we all saw it, and the report actually represented what some of us thought should be the case. And Short and the lady commissioner and the former IGP, Patrick Kwarteng, who actually were empaneled to take charge of the commission's work, did a great job. But unfortunately, the president they deviated. I'm thinking that if I wrote O levels and A levels, if I did that, RIAC should give me the opportunity to risk it. But to say they deviated and they were not now given proper terms of reference, to allow them relook at the issues, for me, begs a lot of questions. And to say those who the advisors of the president, I would say, have not done him any good. If you know, the morning, before the evening the president left the country, when the chaos unfolded, it unfolded before our eyes. You know the statement, was it a tweet? The president. He did say the by-elections went on smoothly, except for an isolated security challenge. But immediately after, around this time, when some of us started interrogating the issues one by one, and, you know, media men like yourselves, what you captured started popping up. Almost immediately, the Vice President, His Excellency, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, did speak to the President because the President was leaving the country. And whoever briefed him told him that everything was fine. Once again, a cover-up. Only for the President to do a U-turn together with Vice President and say, we set up a commission. An isolated incident would not need a presidential commission. And so I would want any teacher of security or any learned person, anyone who understands how these things work, to tell me that an isolated security incident would call for a whole presidential commission televised. And people called, ministers upon ministers, you know, state security officials, those who were beaten, and members of parliament who unfortunately were beaten, you know, were called to testify. And the information was very vivid. Clear. I still remember it. So as far as I'm concerned, we have to continue to talk. But let's take comfort in the fact that the commission report is still there. One day, it might just be used.
Let's see how that goes. I want to thank you very much, Mr. Adam Boda. And I must say that one of the members of parliament who you vividly recall, Honorable Sam George, is right here with us in the studio. We're going to relive the moment and, of course, get to understand exactly what can be done at this particular moment. But that's Adam Boda there. He's a security analyst. I want to thank you very much. Sam George is the member of parliament for the good people of Ningo Pram. Sam, welcome.
Thank you very much.
Good to see you.
It's a pleasure to be here. And my sincere apologies for getting here a bit late.
Absolutely. It's quite understandable. I mean, we're not in good times, you know. Normal times, I meant. But last time you were in Parliament, let me just quote some of the things that you said when you raised this whole issue about, what do you call it, the Ayaso Westward Gone by-election violence. And I'm quoting you. You said, I am heartbroken as I myself was a victim of the recklessness that characterized the actions of state operatives on the day. I saw firsthand the brutality meted out to some citizens of the Republic. I have before me voluminous and short Commission of Inquiry recommendations. You are a lawmaker. A lot needs to be implemented here. It hasn't been done. You were a victim on that day. What's the feeling like?
Thank you very much, Prince, and a very good evening to our viewers. I believe that it's a sad period for us as Ghanaians, that 2 years on, I had to make a statement. I believe tomorrow will be exactly a week. I made a statement on the floor of the House. And I had to crave the indulgence of Mr. Speaker to make this statement so that it goes down in the Hansard of Parliament and it will be recorded for generations unborn to always come and see and know that under the presidency of Mr. Akufo-Addo, we had the abuse of the liberties of citizens of this republic, sanctioned by the highest echelons of government and sanctioned by security couples to undertake an operation that saw the brutality and injury being meted out to citizens of this republic. It's most unfortunate that the president, when there was international condemnation, and the United Nations condemned the action, the UN officers in Ghana, the UN resident rep condemned the actions in Ayaso Westward. Ambassadors of European and American embassies spoke against what had happened. That compelled the president. It wasn't as though the president on his own decided to set up a commission of inquiry.
The compulsion came out of
the international condemnation of the activities of the day. Do not forget that our flag bearer.
Are you inferring, or is a statement of fact?
Oh, it's a statement of fact. Don't forget that our flag bearer, and I was privileged to be part of that meeting, met with the diplomatic corps in Peduasi and played to them the videos from that day. And I spoke to them. I was given 5 minutes to narrate to them what I lived through, you know, and the condemnation was robust. And so Mr. Akufo-Addo had no options. It wasn't as though it was out of the generosity of his heart. No, he had no options than to go ahead and set up a commission of inquiry. Now, I've heard people say, oh, but there were other by-elections where there were violence.
Exactly what I wanted to come to, especially your colleague on the other side, the Majority Chief Whip, Frank Anodompre. And let me quote him as well. He said that, I want to humbly submit that any injustice perpetuated anywhere should be condemned, and hence, as my colleague is calling for a thorough investigation and handing over of deserving compensation, let's also not gloss over the injustice perpetrated at a Tiwa by-election. The Akwatia Treponi by-election should also not be lost on us. Those are Frank Anodompre's words.
Unfortunately, Anodompre did not even read my statement. My statement was not a statement on by-election violence. My statement was on the fact that 2 years on, despite the fact that the government had rejected about 90% of the findings of the Commission of Inquiry, one of the key components of the 10% that the government accepted in his white paper was the payment of compensation. And that 2 years on, compensation has not been paid. So, in trying to drag in other by-elections, you miss the point. Because those by-elections, was there any compensation owed anybody that was outstanding? No, you don't compare apples and oranges. And look, I would not run away and play the ostrich and say there may not have been pockets of violence in those other by-elections. There possibly were. We have heard the reports. But what we should ask ourselves, none of those by-elections witnessed the emergence of state security meting out the violence. In all of these instances that are being mentioned, what you had were groups affiliated to one political party attacking people affiliated to another political party. Ayawaso West Wogon was not political party malicious. No, it was state security, national security, using accoutrements of the Ghana Police Service. So, Ayawaso West Wogon is a complete departure from all the other by-elections. Yes, there have been violence in other by-elections, but those violence had always been between elements within affiliated to political parties. State security comes in and acts as a moderating, calming effect.
But what about those who say that it's a graduation of what happened in those by-elections? I mean, in terms of the violence,
you could have you could make that argument.
Let it fester.
You could make that argument. However, it doesn't equate the scenarios clearly. And you see, for me, when a government sets up a commission of inquiry, nobody put a gun to Mr. Akufo-Addo's head to set up a commission of inquiry. Nobody put a gun to his head to determine the individuals who should serve on that commission of inquiry. He chose 3 persons. Mr. Justice Emil Short. Emil Short had been the former head of Shraj, senior jurist in our country. Mr. Patrick Ike Champon, I mean, former Inspector General of Police. Professor Henrietta Mensah-Bonsu. President Akufo-Addo has, post that commission of inquiry, deemed it fit to appoint her as a Supreme Court judge. She's sitting on the election petition. She is actually one of Ghana's finest criminal law minds. Her books on criminal law are gold standard in this country, in every criminal law class. So these are no mean people. And if you ask these people to go and investigate the violence that happened, the terms of reference were clear. The secretary to the commission was Ernest Abuchi, dean of the Gimpa Law School. They do their work. I appear before the commission with evidence that sways the mind of the commission to realize that our security architecture in this country is faulty.
It needs to be worked on.
It needs to be worked on. That the fact that there was no proper command and control structure in our security apparatus as we spoke, where individuals could actually move weaponry and move accoutrements of state and arm people without recourse to the hierarchy, and that there was a duplicity of roles between a Minister of State for National Security and the Minister for National Security, who does the Director of Operations report to. All of this duplicity was highlighted. The president comes out and says that these 3 minds did not understand the terms of reference.
And there was a departure. But
why? What was the president's thinking? Is it that the president had a different set of terms of reference for them that was private apart from what was public. Because if you look at what was public, their work met the terms and attended to the demands of the terms of reference. Except the president was expecting them to do a whitewash and cover up the crimes of the day. But when they failed to do that, the president had problems with it. And in having problems with it and dismissing the report, admitted and accepted that out of the 16 individuals who filed police reports, 8 of them had credible cause for compensation. 2 years on, this government has not compensated them. Ishao Yaro, the names are there. I'll get you the names. They have failed to give any of these individuals who are due compensation their compensation.
In spite of the lack, the inability or the unwillingness of government to compensate, there's one thing that Adam Bona said before he joined us, that look, this report remains with us and it will always be referenced to, meaning that any future government can go over to the report and say, look, forget about whatever happened, let's make it happen, or let's do something about it. Do you have confidence in the Akufo-Addo administration, as we have it now, to be able to, take a step in dealing with the various issues that sticks out in terms of the recommendations?
Unfortunately, no. Mr. Akufo-Addo is the single largest beneficiary of political violence in our political history. He is the single largest beneficiary of political violence. And this is not debatable. I would take anybody on this.
So you don't see
that Mr. Akufo-Addo thrives on political violence. This is a man who oversaw, as leader of his party, the chemical titration of a regional chairman who was opposed to him. This is a man who, as leader of his party, allowed Hajia Fatih run riot with cutlasses, almost macheting people. This was a man who, as leader of his party, oversaw the assault and attack on Kwabena Japan's car in their party headquarters. This was a man who, as even opposition leader, led a demonstration that led to the death of Ahunu Honga and 3 others, and promised that when they came to power, he was going to investigate. Did he find justice for Ahunu Honga and the other 3? No. But this is a man who thrives on and benefits from political violence. So Akufo-Addo will never.
But when there's pressure and when the issues are raised, as Adam Bona puts it, wouldn't that be enough motivation to get the Akufo-Addo administration to do what is needed?
If we do not have political violence, and if we deal with the issues of political violence, Akufo-Addo will be naked. And he will not allow himself to be naked. The man is the one, and you see that Ayawaso West Wuogon was a dress rehearsal for 2020. The video, one of the videos I had used before the commission, one of the gentlemen in the video made a comment. He said, this is the beginning of 2020.
The gentleman that slapped you?
Yes.
Sulemana?
Yes, Mohammed Sulemana.
Your nightmare?
It's not my nightmare. Justice will be served, one way or the other, when the time is right. The wheels of justice grind slow. But one thing I've always said is that when justice is finally served, however it is served, let nobody in this country say that they are going to call Sam George to order. Because at the end of the day, they have been silent and quiet. When for 2 years, I have filed a complaint with the police service. I have identified the individual. And that individual is still working in the pay, being paid with my taxpayers' money, being paid every month at National Security, and the police have not acted. But you see, if you took the NDC's manifesto, the People's Manifesto, and that's why I was excited about that manifesto, one of the things there under law and justice was that we're going to investigate Ayawaso West Wuogon. But like I keep saying, to every single one of those young men who thinks that they were empowered by Akufo-Addo to misbehave at Ayawaso West Wuogon, and thinks that they may be protected by a judiciary that has lost its conscience, they should bear in mind that justice can be served in several ways. And justice will be served on the streets of this country, in this country, for everyone to know. Justice will be served one day. The wheels of justice grind slow. No matter how slow it takes, and no matter how long it takes, justice will be served.
Very well, Sam George, I want to thank you very much for being a part of the program tonight. Though short, but quite incisive, the conversation we just had. Sam George, Member of Parliament for the good people of Ningo Pram constituency. And that's our show tonight. Make sure to tune in on Monday as we bring you another edition of XYZ Tonight here on TVXYZ.